Welcome to the Wine of Life podcast. Um, I'm just going to do a quick reaction to the letter that was leaked by an ERLC trustee. That was a letter that was written by Russell Moore. It's coming right before the SBC meets in Nashville. And of course, they're going to have their election of their new president. But it's caused a big stir in everything that he said in it. And in it, he makes a lot of accusations regarding people in the executive committee. He doesn't name names, but he says that things like terror tactics, guerrilla tactics were used against him to present some sort of psychological warfare against him and his family. And he says that there are neo-Confederates. I don't even know what that could mean, but I guess excuse me, that people would want to restart the Civil War or something like that. But like white nationalists, he says that there are people hiding, covering up sexual abuse issues in Southern Baptist churches. And I have no reason not to believe him. I don't know Russell Moore, and I've never read anything he's written, or I can't even recall ever hearing him preach. I still have a little bit of a question about the actual role the SBC plays, because I don't biblically they don't have any ecclesiastical authority. So, but they have this position of power in the country and over Southern Baptist churches, that when something happens within the SBC, it actually represents Southern Baptists nationwide, worldwide even. It also starts to represent evangelicals in a larger sense, and then it represents Christianity in a larger sense in the country. So all this stuff is obviously bad. It's not good, whether it's true or not. If he's lying about all of this, it's also bad, because that means there's somebody who's working in the SBC making up things. So either way, none of this stuff glorifies God at all. None of this stuff is being conformed to the image of Christ at all. It's quite terrible, actually. And he talks about one of the reasons why. He wrote this letter in February of 2020 to some trustees on the executive committee. But he writes about the executive committee and people who were trying to run him out of the SBC. He makes a very strange comparison that him being ran out of the SBC was similar to Stalin executing and torturing people in the former Soviet Union. I suppose during the Great Purge in the 30s. So that's a bit over the top, but he makes some things like that, some claims like that, and he says that it wasn't over things like the support of Donald Trump or the criticism of Donald Trump. It wasn't an issue of that. That the issue was about how to handle these racial issues and how to handle sexual abuse issues within the SBC. Now, obviously, in the larger evangelical world, there's been a lot of bad problems going on. Obviously, the Ravi Zacharias scandal, a lot of other scandals that have happened. And then the issues with Judge Pressler, which were really terrible and bad. The issues in Texas, strangely, Pressler was also in Texas, but where there's something like 700 victims. So there have been things that have been going on that have also been covered up for a number of years within the SBC. So, there's no reason that this is necessarily false. It was leaked to a religion news organization. It's called Religion News. I'll put the link in the description part on YouTube. If you're listening on the podcast, you can look up religionnews.com, and it's on there. I'm not going to read the entire thing, but he says that was the main issue, that people were giving him grief over how to deal with these issues. He says some of these people were racist themselves and didn't want black people working in the SBC or having anything to do with it, or one of them, it's specifically referred to black women or black girls he didn't want in the SBC. Um, and then the claim that there's backroom stuff going on, sort of implying that maybe money was being moved around, that there's other things being at play here politically, which could be true. I mean, that's completely possible. Um, so there was an exoneration of a group of people who were involved in an abuse scandal and investigation. He claims this was covered up by the executive committee. I know one of those, from what I understand, he didn't name names, but from what I understand, one of those people was Mike Stone. He's somebody that was on the executive committee and also worked in the Georgia SBC. So he mentions that, but he doesn't say his name. But from what I've tried to find out about who that could be, that apparently is that guy. I don't know him either. But he's trying to say that there's, the SBC is essentially broken. And again, like I said, I don't necessarily disagree or agree. I don't know. Proverbs 14:15 says, "The simple believe everything. The wise and the prudent search out things." So I don't know necessarily. I don't completely believe it or completely disbelieve it. It's totally possible. And the fact that these things have happened before and have come out, it's not impossible. I would say either way, it's horrible for the witness of Christ, because whether the SBC should have power or not is a completely separate issue, but it does around the country. The Washington Post is writing about this stuff. I think the New York Times has done something on it. It's in Christianity Today. It's all over the place, and it really is destroying the witness of Christians, which is being knocked down bit by bit as we go. And it's nobody's fault but ours. I mean, these are Christian issues. And he actually brings this up in the letter. There were things he didn't want to get out because he said lost people would not look favorably on it, and it would be bad. Now, then again, the letter was leaked, so maybe he was just putting on there. I don't know who leaked the letter. The Religion News said that it was a ERLC trustee who leaked it, or that's what the report is. So I don't know if he was involved in that or if he knew this would be leaked. But it was written in February. He also makes some other claims, like he doesn't know anybody who's involved in critical of any ethnicity who is in support or not of critical theory. I can't see how that's possible, because again, that has been national news stories. And actually in December of 2020, after in this same year, I guess that would have been maybe 10, 11 months later after this letter was written, there were churches who were leaving after some comments made by seminary presidents about CRT, and they didn't support it. So those churches actually left because they wanted them to support it. So obviously some people definitely have thoughts about that and have made decisions about whether to be part of the SBC based on critical theory. That's just a fact. So there are some people who are trying to discredit what he's saying based on some of these statements, like the Stalin comment and that one. I would say that if something in a letter or any work is false, it doesn't mean the whole thing is false. And the same way the other way, if there's something true in it, it doesn't mean the whole of the letter is also true. I think we have to be discerning in this. But I think the main way we're supposed to deal with these things, and I'm going to read from the Bible because that's really the only thing I have to go by, because he was talking about people who were in the executive committee. I'm assuming these people are pastors. They're at least leaders in their church in some sense. This is what Paul says that we're supposed to deal with this stuff. In 1 Timothy 5, he says, "Against an elder receive not an accusation, but before 2 or 3 witnesses." And then later he says, right after he says, "Them that sin rebuke before all, that others also may fear. I charge thee before God and the Lord Jesus Christ and the elect angels that thou observe these things without preferring one before another, doing nothing by partiality." Now that is something taken directly from the law. In Deuteronomy 1:17 it says, "Ye shall not respect persons in judgment, but ye shall hear the small as well as the great. You shall not be afraid of the face of man, for the judgment is God's, and the cause that is too hard for you, bring it unto me, and I will hear it. So God is not a respecter of any persons, and we are not supposed to be either. Which leads me to the point of the way that we're supposed to deal with these things. And racial issues were dealt with in the Bible. They were dealt with face to face with the people who were involved with him. They were not spoken to third, fourth parties, getting, releasing them nationally. Now, you can do whatever you want publicly, but you need to do it to the person's face that you're talking about. This is what Paul says he did in a racial incident in Antioch. He wrote a letter to the Galatians talking about his issue with Peter. It says, when Peter was come to Antioch, I withstood him to the face, because he was to be blamed. For before that certain came from James, and James is the brother of Jesus, who was the bishop of Jerusalem at the time. They were disciples of his. They had come down to Antioch, and they were, we'll say, pro-Judaism, sort of, but they were Christians, but they were more into Judaism. He says, he did eat with the Gentiles, but when they were come, he withdrew and separated himself, fearing them which were of the circumcision. So he segregated himself with these Jews who were not eating with the Gentiles in order to sort of follow the law. That's what they were trying to do, or say, or justified in that way. It says, and the other Jews dissembled likewise with him, insomuch that Barnabas also was carried away with their dissimulation. But when I saw that they walked not uprightly according to the truth of the gospel, I said unto Peter before them all. So he confronted him to the face before everyone else. It said, if thou being a Jew lives after the manner of Gentiles, and not as do the Jews, why compellest thou the Gentiles to live as do the Jews? So there was no wall between Jew and Gentile. Paul talks about this in Ephesians 2, that wall was broken down. So there is no ethnic or racial separation within the church. There shouldn't be. And if somebody is doing something like that, they're to be approached to the face in front of people, right? And you can deal with them one-on-one, and if the one-on-one issue doesn't work, you bring witnesses. This is what Jesus says in Matthew 18. He says, moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee, go and tell him his fault between thee and him alone. If he shall hear thee, thou hast gained thy brother. So, the claim of people who were terrorizing him and mistreating him should have gone to those people face to face. This is what it says after this, though, if that doesn't work, because it doesn't always work. It says, but if he will not hear thee, then take with thee one or two more, that in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses every word may be established. And if he neglects to hear them, tell it unto the church. It's to go public. But if he neglects to hear the church, let him be unto thee as a heathen man and a publican. So he is to be seen as a lost person who does not want to be a part of the church. And I've had to deal with some issues of this before. When you talk to somebody who might have an issue like this, deal with them one-on-one, 3 things are going to happen. They're either going to repent, they're either going to try and run you out, or they're going to try, or they're going to leave. Those are the only 3 things that can happen. So it's not that big a deal. You just obey the Bible, speak with them, and then the chips fall where they may. And I don't know if he ever dealt with any of these people one-on-one. I hope he did. I guess he would say that he was outnumbered, and so he's the one being run out. I don't know. But I do know that all of the way that this is being handled from everyone is not biblical, is wrong. And the other thing about this sexual abuse, anyone who knows anything about that should contact the authorities. These are crimes, right? When we're talking about molestation, rape, pedophilia, these are crimes. It doesn't matter if it's done by a pastor or a deacon or music person, whatever. They're crimes. They need to go before the authorities. It's not an issue of trying to save face. You need to make sure that the right people hear it and then go from there. It doesn't mean that you're trying to ruin someone's life or anything like that. If these are serious allegations, they need to be treated seriously. They don't need to be hushed up or covered up. God always knows the truth, and the true judge is God. regardless of the effects that might come from it publicly. So that's what I would say about the letter. If you want to read it yourself, read it. It's just bad all around. Everything about it is bad, and I wish some of these folks could get it together, speak to each other face to face, be men. If I can say that, it's more like children. But I wish that they could, maybe read the Bible a little bit and maybe try and discuss these issues with each other, pray together. And we should all be praying for all of these folks involved. I guess all of them will be going to this thing in Nashville, which that could be funny, I guess, if we could see some of those meetings. But with regards to all the corruption as well, we need to be praying for that, because it feels like all of our institutions are seemingly broken at this point of our civilization in these dark ages. So pray for all of these people. Pray for everybody's churches, even outside the Southern Baptist churches. Pray for all churches. Pray that we can all be the appropriate witness that we're supposed to be. We are ambassadors for Christ. So I just wanted to do this bit about this letter, because it's news and it's a big deal. People are making a big deal about it. It's in all the national news and everything. So read it yourself, come to your own conclusions, and pray about it. Pray for these churches, pray for these people who are doing all this stuff, who are involved in all these things, whether they're lying about it, whether they're covering crimes up, whether they're having racist thoughts and ideas. All of those things need to be repented of. They need to be uncovered and unearthed. So pray for everybody involved. If you like the video, if you completely disagree, whatever, comment on it, or you can comment on the podcast as well, or on Facebook or something. If you want to support it, there's support in the description below, and on the podcast there's a support button. So thank you for listening. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.